Hello and welcome to the Housing Partnership meeting, Monday, February 3rd, 2025. This is a hybrid meeting. In person, it is at City Hall in the hearing room, 210 Main Street, second floor, Northampton, Mass. Or you could attend over Zoom, and the Zoom link is on the agenda. And you could also call in by phone, which is also on the agenda. And if you want to come into the meeting, the passcode is also on the agenda. The City of Northampton does not discriminate based on disability and is committed to hosting accessible meetings. To request a reasonable accommodation to attend any city meeting, please contact the ADA coordinator at adacoordinator@northamptonma.gov or call 413-587-1288. Welcome, everybody. I would like to provide a notice that this meeting is being recorded, and I will do a roll call. Bev Bates,
Here.
Richard Abuza,
Here.
Melissa Fowler,
Here.
Spencer Gazy Bates.
Here at long last.
All right. Good to see you. And Chris Palamas.
Here.
I'm hoping I pronounced your last name correctly.
You did.
Okay, great. And Gwen Nabad here. Okay. And I guess we could do some introductions. And if I were to go in a direction, I would go to my left. But that looks like it's Keith from here. So Spencer. We'll start with Spencer and you can pass the
I can pass it around. Okay. Well, hi, everybody. I apologize for my long absence. I made the really odd decision to be an adjunct professor that also happened to teach a class at this exact time every Monday. I'm very happy that's over with. I live obviously in Northampton, and I'm a estate planning and elder law attorney, and I'm very hopeful to help, as always, with our housing issues, particularly for our aged and disabled populations. I will pass that down to, I don't have anybody to my left because that's an empty hearing room, but
right.
Maybe to Bev, maybe?
The other Bates.
The other Bates, the non-hyphenated one.
That's right. I'm Bev Bates. I am currently retired, but before that happened to me, I worked in the affordable housing realm for many years. I'm not going to tell you how many because that will date me. For the 35 years that preceded my retirement, I worked for the Community Builders, which, if you're not familiar with them, is a pretty significantly scaled nonprofit developer of affordable mixed income housing, perhaps in Northampton, most well known for contributing to the affordable stock at Village Hill. And I'm happy to be here. Very nice to meet you, Chris. I guess you're the new guy. Is that right? I think we only have one new guy. So yeah, nice to meet you.
Hi. Yeah, I'm Chris Palamas. This is my first meeting. It took a while to catch up with the process, but I have small nonprofit independent living resources. I previously chaired the Disability Commission before the pandemic, but didn't want to go back there. What I'm hearing from my friends with disabilities, housing is the preeminent concern, affordability and accessibility. I did get to serve on the transition for the governor on the housing committee, which took me into a very deep dive, much deeper than my own level of experience. So I thought this would give me a chance to focus here in Northampton on what I see as the most urgent foundational need for people with disabilities, elders, and other disadvantaged folk.
Nice to hear from you and meet you, Chris. Thank you for being here.
Good to meet you all.
Welcome and welcome. You'll have to pass the baton to someone.
Um, let's see, Richard, we have.
Okay, I'll step in.
Oh, Spencer. No, Richard, yeah.
Okay. Welcome, Chris. I'm very glad to see you stepping up to this particular plate. I live in Florence. I've been a long time property manager in town, and I've been on the housing partnership since the beginning, so I have a little bit of historical context to add to this process, which is over 30 years ago.
All right, that leaves Benjamin.
Well, I
Everybody,
think
I'm
it's
just here
the
to
public, right?
good to see you.
Okay. Okay, and my name obviously is Gwen Nabad, and I've been here on the partnership for a very, very short time, since 2022, I think. And I originally started out living in Northampton in public housing, and I'm no longer living in public housing. But public housing became a lived experience that I had never thought of before. And gave me some perspective and kind of inspired me to sort of become a little bit of a local activist or supporter of the creation of local tenant organizations as a balance of power. What interests me also is disabilities in terms of invisible disabilities but also physical disabilities. And how that gets addressed within the context of, the most vulnerable. However, I do find myself serving on the partnership here, and that's been also really exciting and inspiring, and I'm learning a lot about planning and development and things like that. So thank you. Okay.
I'll go.
Okay.
Hey, Chris, I'm Melissa Fowler. I'm sitting here in the little
Melissa,
screen.
you're back far away. All
I'm
right.
far, far away. Yes.
Thank you for speaking out.
I've been on the partnership for, probably close to 2 years now. I'm actually on the Northampton Planning Board. So I'm here as a representative of the Northampton Planning Board. And I also am in the construction and project management business. So that's sort of the expertise that I bring to the table. Thank you.
Great, thank you. And I will add that I do have some construction and expertise from my previous life before I came to Northampton. I worked in the construction industry in Boston, and I had my own tile business. So I guess I could sort of come at things from that angle too. Thanks. All right. Next up is public comment. So I guess I'm wondering if I don't see any members of the public, but it doesn't mean there isn't somebody in the hearing room.
There's no one here but Melissa and I.
Okay. Okay, next up on the agenda is an approval of minutes from October 7th, November 4th, December 9th, and January 6th, 2025. 4 months. Yes, Richard.
I'm
I'll
going to
move
move that
we-
we approve, but before we do, I approve all of them. I noticed something that was a little quirky, and I think it's a typo. It's in the October minutes on the second page. It says, Marissa, they're asking about, is there an age restriction on the ADU? And Marissa Elkins noted 1975, which I think is a little old. So if we could just correct what that is, then I'm happy. I actually did review the other notes.
Okay. Thanks, Richard.
That
I will
correct?
so-
I will second his motion.
Yeah.
Okay, so we should do a recall on that. I mean, a roll call. Um, so Melissa Fowler, okay, I'll move on to Spencer.
I would probably should abstain since I wasn't here, so I will abstain.
Okay. Is Gordon here? No. Um, Bev Bates?
Aye, yes.
Okay, Richard Abuza,
I vote to approve.
Gwen Namad, I vote to approve. So that was 3 approvals and 1 abstention, so that I think passes.
Melissa's still there somewhere, right?
I to tell you the truth, I don't see Keith or Melissa.
Front row.
Uh-oh, we're flying blind.
And I think Spencer, I think I just saw that you became host, so they might be trying to get back into the meeting.
Oh, wow, I became, okay, let me see.
That's what you get for staying away.
I,
Yeah, yep.
there is no one in the waiting room.
Ah,
Okay.
I move that we adjourn the meeting.
Okay, let's give it a minute.
I
Or we
would
can just,
Keith, but I don't have his phone number.
right.
Okay.
yeah, I suspect he knows he's not on.
Yeah. Are we still being recorded?
We are.
Yes.
Okay, okay. So do we have these minutes approved officially at this point?
Think so.
Yep.
Okay,
You should just add me as an abstention,
okay,
just for the count.
okay. Sure, sure. Thank you. So those are approved. Okay, so next up is to discuss a Northampton,
Internet down, trying again. Message from Keith.
Keith. Yeah.
okay. I'm getting a notice that Keith is the host now.
Oh,
Oh, I see him. I think I did.
you did a good job, though, Spencer.
Hey, you
It's
know,
excellent.
Right, thank you for your. Okay. All right, so Keith is here, not Melissa.
Well, I think they're in the same. Oh, I guess not.
Oh, yeah, they were in the same. Maybe Keith is setting it back up or something.
He's lost his focus. Well, I would suggest that
Push on.
we keep going on, and it looks like
Okay.
he's there. Yeah.
Okay, great.
Keith. I see him.
Okay, Keith. Oh, and here comes Melissa.
all right.
Technical difficulties at City Hall today.
I think we're back.
Okay, great. We can hear you good. Okay, so Keith, we just approved all the minutes and those are all set. And now we're moving on to a discussion about the Northampton Housing Authority Board vacancies. And there's actually quite a few vacancies. I think there's 3 right now. So that's what I know.
Do you know why there are 3? Is this a statement or just a coincidence?
Well, Edgardo had stepped down from the Northampton Housing Partnership, and he was the liaison in that way, but that also he stayed on to the Housing Authority a little bit longer, and then he really had to let it go. So he stepped down officially 2 months ago. And previous to that, there was another resident board member, Emily Loffer. She had resigned in 2023, 2022, something like that, just family stuff and moving along. So she was never replaced. And then now I went on the website and I don't see Marilyn Richards there anymore, although I don't have any official word on that. But so there are 4 members of the Housing Authority Board, and last Monday was their monthly meeting, and it was canceled for no quorum, not having quorum.
Wow.
Hey, Gwen, can you remind me, because I know you've already done it once, how the appointments work? The mayor has some appointments and the governor has some appointments, or not? I don't know.
Yeah, so the way that the appointments work for the Housing Authority, the Housing Authority is a state entity.
Correct.
However, the city can put forth people, and a lot of times the mayor usually appoints people, or there's also one position that's a governor's appointment. However, it is important for the city to speak with residents. It's actually in the regulations that the city, the council people might go out and speak with residents and talk about who they might want to appoint. They would usually connect with the LTOs, and listen to them and then take everything into consideration and appoint somebody. And so I'm kind of on a mission to see those regulations working and in motion, and however that ends up. And in the case of like Edgardo, it was like we had the Northampton Housing Partnership liaison. So, there was that, and he had lived experience. And so, yeah, I hope that helps.
Yep. I guess I was trying to figure out what our role, if any, is in this. And from what you're saying, it seems like at least one thing we could do is communicate to the mayor that we would urge her to make appointments. And if you have other messaging that you think should go along with that, including ensure that resident members are also appointed. It's a shame that they can't hold a meeting, right? Because they didn't have a quorum.
Yeah.
Now, I don't know what quorum rules there are, if there are other people who couldn't make it, but yeah.
Right. So it's gone from a 7-member board to a 4-member board. And so if one person has the flu, they won't have the quorum. And yeah, so the meeting just didn't happen. So yeah. Does anybody have any thoughts on this? See, somebody just came in at GPS. Well, I like the idea of sending a note, Bev. Does
I mean,
anybody?
we can state the obvious, and that is how important a housing resource the Housing Authority is to the city of Northampton, and how much we would like to do whatever we can to support full participation on the board and, sort of integration, if you will, with sort of larger strategies around
Right.
Northampton. I
Mhm.
think one of the things you were concerned about is there's a lot of money in the new housing bill And, you know,
Yeah.
it'd be great to know that Northampton's positioning itself to get whatever of those funds they're reasonably entitled to.
Right. And it's, so what has happened over time is that Northampton Housing Authority has somewhat merged with Hampshire County, East Hampton, Hatfield, and Hampshire County covers a lot of the hill towns. So it's a pretty large territory. You know, they're like, just from my own observation, it's just, it's a big territory, and it would be good to just sort of just be working with whatever they get out of the housing bond bill for capital expenses and capital repairs. And there may be like somewhat of a role maybe for the housing partnership to play in case of displacement or anything like that, as public housing is being updated and things like that. So those are just some of my thoughts. Go ahead,
Well,
Richard.
I'll say this, and I don't think it's very likely, but given the number of vacancies there, if there was somebody on the housing partnership that wanted to dual serve, this would be an ideal opportunity. I don't see that in the cards, but I don't know everybody's heart and desires, but that would be a way for them to get a new member and for us to have that liaison if anybody is so inclined.
Mhm. Okay. Um, well, that's something.
So Gwen, I don't want to get ahead of your game, but I know you're very interested in the housing authority, having, as you said, had them as your landlord for a chunk of your life, and because you recognize the importance of what they do in the community. So, are you interested in being on that board, or you just have too much on your hands right now?
Well, I mean, you know, I guess my take on it is that I do recognize that serving on that board will be very time consuming, and it will be all encompassing. However, I think that one thing that might make it easier for me, unless there's somebody else that feels that they have this knowledge, I do understand the regulations, and especially from a tenant viewpoint. A lot of the new legislation that and the different things that were approved in the housing bond bill are things that I actually like fought for and, you know, testified for and, you know, wrote letters for and, you know, supported. Um, and there's a lot of like, you know, legislation, and there's new public housing notices that I've been following for years now. So, and when I say new, I mean like in the last 5 years. But I would say, you know, at the same time, I recognize it's a lot of work, and so, but I could do that. I could serve. I would be willing to serve on that.
Well, I would be willing to make a motion to write a letter to the mayor saying we recognize not only the importance of the housing partnership being at full strength to function, but that the coordination between the housing, excuse me, did I say the housing partnership? I meant the Northampton Housing Authority being at full
Right.
strength, and the coordination between the housing authority and the partnership has been something that has been a historic benefit to both, and that I would wholeheartedly recommend you for appointment.
Okay. So was that a motion?
I'll
That was a
second that.
motion.
Oh, all right.
Apparently, I'm gonna second everything that Richard says tonight.
Okay. All right. So I'll do a roll call then on that. Uh, Bev Bates,
Aye.
Richard Abuza,
Yes.
Gordon Shaw,
Yes.
Melissa Fowler,
Yes.
Spencer Gazy Bates,
Yes.
Chris Palamas,
Yes.
Can I
and
change
I will,
my vote to yes?
sure. And I will abstain.
Apparently I is outdated. So,
I will abstain. Okay, so that is resolved. So we'll move on to the next thing, which is the fossil fuel ban ordinance in the city, which is, it's got a number with a dot, a decimal next to it, and I forget what that is, and I don't know if Keith remembers. I don't know. Or maybe if Melissa remembers. I think it was like 21.3 or something like that.
24.170 fossil fuel
One-
free construction ordinance,
Okay,
something or other.
so does anybody want to start on this discussion? I know that it's passed. I believe it's passed.
I
Is
don't
that
know
right?
if everybody knows what's in it. I'm wondering if Keith or somebody wants to summarize basically what it's all about. I could take a stab at it, but I don't have all the details.
Yeah, so I'm gonna
Okay.
try to send it to you and then I can try to summarize it.
You did send it to me, so I have no excuse.
I meant everyone.
Right. Um, well, I do know one of the concerns about this is the conflict of like wanting to incentivize builders and developers while at the same time having these quote unquote restrictions or limitations, or it's just part of the greater plan. I'm trying to find it.
Well, it's in a nutshell, for those who are not sure what we're talking about, it's recently enacted legislation that would prohibit construction of new residential or commercial facilities with some carve outs that aren't fossil fuel free, meaning essentially all electric. And there's provisions for grandfathering of older buildings that have existing oil or gas furnaces that just need to be upgraded or even replaced. There's exemptions for other kinds of facilities, and I don't remember those off the top of
Okay.
my head.
I have it right here, Bev.
Right.
I have it right here. So basically, a fossil-free construction ordinance in accordance with the Massachusetts fossil fuel-free demonstration program. And so fossil fuel-free, the definition is an entire building or entire condominium unit that does not, in support of its operation after construction, utilize coal, oil, natural gas, other fuel hydrocarbons, including synthetic equivalents or other fossil fuels. And so this is to restrict and prohibit new building construction and major renovation projects that are not fossil fuel free. It applies to residential and non-residential buildings that qualify as new construction or major renovation. And that is as defined in 225 CMR 24.00. This restriction shall not apply to research laboratories for scientific or medical research, hospitals, and medical offices regulated by the DPH as a healthcare facility as defined in 225 CMR 24.0. So Bev was talking about, so sections zero energy pathway, mixed fuel pathway shall not be permitted for use for new construction or major renovations with the following exceptions. 1, emergency generators and standby power systems. 2, for existing fossil fuel equipment, And then one, if existing fossil fueled heating or hot water appliances have sufficient capacity to satisfy the additional loads of major renovation, the existing equipment can be utilized. If the heating or water appliances that are fossil fueled do not have sufficient capacity to satisfy the additional loads of a major renovation, the existing equipment can be kept and used. And any additional heating load must be satisfied with all electric equipment. And then 3, existing fossil fueled heating or hot water appliances may be replaced with new equipment of higher efficiency and the same or lower capacity as measured in BTU per hour or kilowatt as the existing equipment. And so this is a lot here. But I think we are here to talk about it. We are here to think about this. There's also a section down here about waivers. Waivers can be granted by the building commissioner. And there's a whole area here of waivers. And it looks to me as if this has been really well thought out and put together over a period of time, and probably with a lot of different people involved. And I believe it passed. Is that right, Keith?
Yeah, it took effect at the end of January.
Yeah,
I mean, I don't, I mean, there's not anything we're gonna do about it. And I personally don't, think necessarily we should, but what it will do obviously is drive up cost. And it will indiscriminately drive up cost.
right.
It is true that the Commonwealth has made doing this pretty much a priority for getting resources. So in the affordable world, you kind of have huge incentives to do it anyways. But what I hear from people is it doesn't mean the huge incentives actually pay for the additional cost. And just in the FYI category, I'm on the board of a nonprofit in Springfield, and they were building for sale homes, and they were all electric, going to be all electric, until National Grid announced that they didn't have enough infrastructure in that location to
Yes.
service the homes when they were coming online.
Right.
And so it actually took a lot of politics to get NGrid to decide otherwise.
Uh-huh. Right, right.
I do think there may be, especially in Western Mass and other parts of the Commonwealth, some questions about the capacity of the grid to service the additional load. There was an ironic comment that somebody made. What I think it was Keith who said there's only like 2 places in the Commonwealth that have this law. And I think it's Nantucket and Martha's Vineyard, which aren't really the same economies as
Right.
Hampshire.
Correct.
But
Exactly.
then it'll be interesting to watch because we all agree that reduction of use of fossil. I shouldn't say we all agree, but many people
Right.
agree to use less
Most.
fossil fuels.
Right.
So
Yeah, and I mean, it sounds like that's an exception or grounds for waiver in this ordinance anyway. So, and that is, I mean, some of the utilities are saying, we're not going to keep focusing on building this right now. This is not the time for this or whatever. I don't know exactly, but I think it was Eversource said they're not working on building the grid necessarily for this. And, so, right, the infrastructure has to be worked on and will take time. So it's more of a longer process, I guess. When you said cost, Bev, when you say drive up the cost, do you mean the cost of construction, or the cost to the person who will be living there, or it could be in all ways, right?
well, lots of people are painfully aware that electric is very expensive. And so unless you happen to be fortunate enough to have some solar panels on your house, it is. pretty much. And that's all about a whole set of regulatory and other issues that I don't pretend to understand, but also increasing supply and demand. Remember when a number of us were relatively young and nobody wanted to have electric baseboard in their houses anymore?
Exactly. That's what I was thinking. Like in the 80s when I was renting my first
Right?
apartment, I avoided the all electric heating.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, like so, yeah, I mean, and I think like in general, like just in terms of like, just my little bit of experience learning things and doing seminars with Climate Action Now, and also like a lot, in my classes that I took recently over the last few years, there's no one solution, like electric shouldn't always doesn't have to be always the only solution, but there's other ways, but um it's kind of like a multi-pronged approach, I guess. So, and
Well, I do think that doing everything possible to enable support, particularly affordable builders to do solar is a big piece of this, right?
right. And like pilots or grant programs, or I don't know how many grant programs there will be now, but anything. Like Bridge Road, I think it's Bridge Road or Bridge Street, where the old nursing home. They're doing a combo of electric and geothermal, I think.
Mhm.
So, yeah. And I think that's really cool. My other suggestion was to have windows that open and have those swing out laundry dryers, so people can dry their laundry. Because that could be almost as good as having a garden. All right, is that the end of this discussion? Okay. I'm moving along to city updates for 33 King Street and Crafts Ave housing.
Yes. So both of those are in process. So the 33 King Street, that went out for an RFP, or RFQ, excuse me, RFP, for selling it. And so my department's writing that. It should be going out by the end of the month. And it'll be open for a little while, so that developers can have more time. So we're kind of using what we learned in the last time went out to make it more enticing for developers and give them more time to kind of look it over.
Sure.
And then, so 33 King, that is the old courthouse, or the Hall of Records, right across the street from the Hotel Northampton.
Okay, yeah.
So kind of right in the center of town, be really good for, some housing, some mixed use,
Sure.
and maybe take away some of that parking lot, but we'll see. And then Crafts Avenue housing, that is the Valley CDC project that is taking away city parking lot to create housing. And their targeted people for living there will be people that are recently homeless, that are need more kind of wraparound services. And they are, in the design phase, and I believe they're looking for money. So Valley CDC, they're doing a
Okay.
lot in Northampton right now.
Right.
They are almost finished with Laurel Street. I don't know the number count on that off the top of my head. But that is, again, some old state hospital building that is in our 40R. So that's our, density bonuses we're getting from that also included Village Hill and the apartments up there.
Okay.
And Valley CDC also doing the Prospect Place, which is the Bridge Road. Valley's working really hard on that, and I think that Crafts Avenue project, once it's up and running, it's gonna be really exciting. Hopefully, they're
Definitely.
exploring a bunch of different things with that. So
Yes, yeah. Okay. And Melissa, mentioned a new development happening on Elm Street.
Yeah, it's the, what everybody's referring to as the St. Mary's property.
Okay,
So, I don't have the agenda yet. I don't have the time slot for it, but I do know that the public hearing will be on the 13th. And,
okay,
we had talked about sort of some of these bigger projects that are coming to light and being able to participate in them.
sure,
So I would anticipate a rather robust conversation about this on that evening. I did
okay,
forward to you guys the narrative that sort of gives a little description about what it's going to be. It's 71 units. They're all market rate units.
right,
And then also a rendering of it. But when I send out the staff report, as I do, you'll be able to link to all of the public records and dive in as deep as you want to dive in if you're interested in doing so.
okay. I have a question about this that I don't know if you could answer, but is there a 40B requirement?
I can't answer that. I don't believe there is. And I haven't actually looked at all of the documents yet, because the meeting's not for a week and a half, so I haven't dug into everything yet, but I don't believe there is a requirement there for that.
Okay,
It's Sunwood Builders.
uh-huh, yep,
And uh, I I don't know much about it at this point,
okay.
other than it's a
And
bunch of units right in the center of downtown Northampton.
right. And then the other thing that comes up that I thought about when reading about this is, market rate according to HUD is different than reality and always 1 year behind. So I'm wondering about like the semantics of that or how that's gauged or measured. So that was a thought that I had. Does anybody have any questions of Melissa or Keith?
Melissa, just to clarify, this is the one that's gonna be on the old parking lot that is across the street from Fly By Night.
Correct.
Okay.
On Sunwood's website, they're calling it 10 State Street.
Right.
On the public records, it's called 3 Elm Street. So if
3
you're
Elm.
looking it up, look for 3 Elm Street. And this phase of the project, I just looked at it briefly, but this phase of the project is not doing anything with the church. It's renovating and utilizing the rectory for, I believe, 6 units, and then building a couple of structures in that current parking lot for the remainder of the 71 units.
Okay, I remember us talking about this one now. And I think another thing I would be interested in knowing is if there will be an electric car charger or, little things like that, or just some of the
We
things.
typically require a lot of that type of stuff when we go through the technical aspects of it.
Okay,
Especially now, requiring car
sure.
chargers, and then even for future, putting in conduits for future ones is
Mm-hmm.
something we commonly require.
Great. Any other questions from anyone? Okay. And so I'm going to move along and ask if anybody has anything to mention. I do just want to acknowledge Gordon. Hi, Gordon. I don't know what exactly time you came in. We did do introductions earlier in the meeting. And we have Chris Palamas here, who is a new member, and we did do introductions, so I didn't know if you might want to introduce yourself to Chris.
Hi, Chris. I'm Gordon. I'm an attorney. I work at Legal Aid here in Western Mass, Community Legal Aid. I work primarily out of the Springfield office, but the program does serve all of Central and Western Massachusetts. And I've been on the partnership for over 12 years, having been chair 2 different terms at different times.
Good to meet you.
All right. Thank you. And so that leaves us with one final motion.
Can I
I'll
just
move
say,
to
the
ad-
reason I'm late is because I went to show up in person and the doors were locked, so I had to come home. I don't know what
Oh,
happened.
Gordon, so sorry.
I thought this,
Uh-oh.
that looks like it is a hybrid meeting. I see Melissa and Keith are
It
in the
is,
room, but I couldn't get in the building.
Next time, just knock. I was running up downstairs checking.
Okay.
son of a gun. Oh, sorry, Gordon. Well, thank you so much for your dedication there. Um,
I
and so,
will move to adjourn.
okay.
I guess I
Need a
have to second that.
Okay, so we will do a roll call on that. Bev Bates?
You don't need a
Yes.
roll call for the adjournment.
No? Okay, all right, so all in favor? Aye.
Good night.
All right, thank you, everybody. Have a great night.
Right.
Good night. See
Good
ya.
night, everybody.